Hi, I'm Susan Peterson, and you are listening to Started from the Bottom, an entrepreneur-focused podcast on getting started. Here you will find all the mindset tools and resources you need to just get started. Hi, today I am talking with my good friend Andrew Pincock. Andrew and I met about 10 years ago when we were both working on a project. I have long admired his pragmatic approach to business and the creative way that he approaches startup life. Today, we are talking about resiliency, how to value learning, and we also talk about loss and growth. Trigger warning for today's episode, we will be discussing the sudden passing of his first wife. So if you have medical anxiety or have recently suffered the loss of a loved one, we are going to be talking about this first thing. Skip today if you need to. Andrew, welcome to Started from the Bottom, an entrepreneur-focused podcast.
Excellent.
That part out. Okay. You want me to do it again? Yeah, okay. Andrew, welcome to Started from the Bottom, my brand new podcast. It's not going to be new when we do this, though. It'll be old.
Awesome.
I'm going to read your bio real quick. Andrew Pincock is an avid entrepreneur who started, bought, and built over a dozen companies, selling a few along the way. He's currently heading up Clickmatize, a lead generation business, and Ampry, a marketing software company. Andrew grew up in Maryland and has lived in France and Russia. He graduated from BYU in economics and accounting and moved back to Utah in 2008. He enjoys reading and is trying to keep up with his 9 kids.
Yes.
You just put stuff in here for shock value, I feel like.
Like what? What's shocking?
9 children is shocking.
That's just a fact.
I know, but I like how you drop it like casually.
It's part of my old bio. It used to say 5. Now it says 9.
9.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my first question would be, are you polygamous?
I do have 2 wives. So, whatever that makes me.
You're not. Oh.
One at a time. One at a time. A widower.
Oh, gosh.
Remarried a widow.
Yes.
And went from 5 to 9.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
She had 4 kids.
Yes.
You had 5. Wow. Well, should we let's just jump into that part of it, I think.
Sure. if you want to start there.
Well, or we could leave that for
great.
later.
No, that's great.
Okay.
Let's just run with it.
Your wife, Becca, passed away.
Yes.
Very suddenly and very tragically. If I'm not handling this correctly, just let me know.
No, you're fine. I don't get offended ever.
I know you don't, but I just want to make sure I'm handling sudden death as gently as I can because it is traumatic for people. And you do, you get PTSD and stuff.
It happens.
Yes. So she got sick, right?
Yep. Meningitis.
Yeah, and then passed away within.
I mean, it was under 24 hours from, me rushing home from work to see what's up. She's not responsive to getting the game over news from the doctors the next morning.
Yeah.
At the hospital. So
yeah,
it went quick.
Yeah. And up until then, you just thought she had like an earache or.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of regular, not feeling great that week.
So then, I mean, I remember when this happened, it was terrible. It was very sad. And you immediately became single dad.
Yeah, that was hectic. It was, but honestly, that's also what got me through it. So I feel like the kids, were that anchor that I had a reason I needed to get out of bed, survive, make some choices to just kind of learn from it and keep pushing rather than just curl up and die myself, which is like the first instinct. But
yeah. Because you and Becca had been together since you were like 14, right?
Yeah, she was 14, I was 15. So 1993.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was pretty much one of those, cheesy love at first sight stories. We're
cute
childhood kids together, running, hanging out, dated, got married basically as young as was feasibly possible, which was, in 99. So 6 years later, and yeah, had the 5 kids over that almost 17 years.
Yeah.
So we had a better run than most people get. So I was pretty grateful.
Beautiful relationship. She's amazing. And then you met Christy.
Yeah. So
why'd you pause and laugh at me? Did you think I was going to say something?
No, I don't know. Yeah.
What? Did I do something wrong?
No. I was just laughing, thinking about how I met Christy.
Yeah, it's a good I actually like this story. It's not, I think there was so much tragedy that to have something beautiful bloom out of this was like really incredible. As your friend, to be able to like, I wouldn't say you got a happy ending. That's not what I mean. Like, I think it was a really hard year. We talked a lot during that time, but to be able to have Christy after that, it was like Andrew deserves some good stuff to come his way.
Yeah, for both of us and our kids. I mean, it was a phenomenal outcome from both of us kind of going through that same tragedy. So, I mean, really that's, and that's how we met. And that's why when people are like, oh, how'd you meet your wife? I'm like, oh, through her husband. And so Dave and I were good friends in college, and we always kept in touch. Me and Becca went to their wedding. But that's the only time I'd met her. So really didn't know her at all. Till after he passed, reached out just to share some stories with her, memories, as people do in these situations. And so really just, after Becca passed, it was really her reaching back out, because she hadn't, even responded to me prior. So we just, oh my gosh, now you're going through this. We're both kind of going through the same thing. She's only about, 6 months ahead of me in this journey, and really formed a fast friendship, and would talk about, what are we doing with the kids? What kind of therapy are we getting them into? Who needs help with what? And just kind of being at that same age and stage of life, we had a lot in common to kind of support each other over, and rather than a lot of the well-intentioned but terrible advice or commentary that other people give you as you're going through something like that. And I get it. It's hard you only have the reference points you have. And so I never really resented anything anyone said. It just was not helpful. But so really found that bond and connection with Christy over that. Didn't even realize, we were dating. There was no like,
oh, now we're dating. Cause you guys were just hanging out with your kids, right? We were just hanging
out. We hung out on our own for a little bit, just get together for dinner and talk. And so talked about our spouses primarily at the outset, talked about the kids, everything. Then our kids were both on waiting lists to get into these kind of group therapy programs. There's a couple of them in the area. And so we were like, oh, we're like 2 months out on the waiting list. And so we're like, let's just get our kids together. And they started hanging out and forming friendships there. And so things kind of, progressed quickly and organically, but it was very unexpected. But it was awesome. Yeah.
I think, it's not a club you want to belong to.
Right.
But
it is a club, and you start to see and meet a lot of people. Yeah.
Right. And to be able to like, both kind of have that as like an understanding. I know we've talked about it. You said it's like made your relationship probably better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we were both in happy marriages and still love our, I guess, original spouses. I'm like, I don't know what to call it, but, and so us understanding that, and also having a lot of empathy on whether it's an anniversary or a specific day, we give each other the space and support that we need, and can be very dynamic in that and support each other. And there's pretty much not a day that goes by in our household that we're not talking about Daddy Dave or Mommy Becca as kind of part of the family still. And so having that kind of healthy relationship to honor, the parents of our kids and everything in our family makes it just for a positive environment overall. And I think helped a ton.
Yeah. Do you feel like, it changed you as a leader?
Yeah, honestly, one of the biggest things it did for me was really just, I'm so just like logical and data driven and I'll say robotic, computer like for some people.
Yeah.
So I could so really going through something that, you know, just forced me to my heart to grow, you know, like the Grinch, since it's almost Christmas time, you know, 3 sizes or whatever, but like just really grow a ton of new empathy in a very short period of time. I think has just made me dial in a little bit more to my teams and my people as far as like, hey, what matters in their lives? Like, you know, if something comes up, even though it might not be on the same magnitude as something like that, I'm much more aware, much more, you know, injecting ways to help. We had an employee not long after that, her fiance got in a bad car accident that was driving up from Vegas. You know, I put her on a plane that afternoon, just, you know, hey, pack up, I bought you a ticket, just get down there. For me, it's hard. Like pretty comfortable with dark humor at this point. We make a lot of jokes about death in our house, and we're not trying to be mean to other people who might be in a raw state about that either. But for me, humor is the way to get through things. And so we've got a lot of good jokes.
I was talking to Lisa Valentine Clark. Her husband died of ALS.
Okay.
And it makes me feel uncomfortable. We talked about this because she jokes about it so much.
Yeah, usually it's the people around me that are uncomfortable who haven't gone through it.
And she'll be like, oh, well, I wouldn't know my husband's dead. Like when I complain or do something, I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I think it's you know, I knew Becca, I know Christy. I think both relationships are beautiful. It was, of course, so sad when Becca died. It was so terrible. And I really worried for your kids, actually. I didn't know how you're going to do it because, like you said, you don't, you know, your sensitivity chip like got knocked loose sometimes.
Oh, man.
So I would worry about your kids. So I was so happy when you found Christy because she seems like she's really sweet.
Yeah, she's a great balance to me in the way I do things.
Yeah, I can remember you were like, okay, how can we fast track all these grief things I need to go through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were definitely looking for like a way to get through it quickly and succinctly and build systems around how'd that work, by the way?
How'd it work? You know, parts of it worked great. The other parts of grief is it's always an ongoing, you know, process, and the waves don't necessarily hit you as frequently, but they can hit you as hard on any given day. And sometimes it's random triggers too. You know, you might brace yourself for an anniversary and you're fine. And then next thing you know, something small comes up and you're knocked down for a minute. So there's no like, it's not like I'm going to get over it. There's not over it. You just kind of get through the worst of it. And then you just, you know, you still carry that. Really, as long as you're carrying that love, you're going to carry some of that hurt with it. But that's the two sides of it.
Wow, that's really nice. That's pretty. That might be the prettiest thing I've ever heard you say. Okay, let's talk about your career.
Okay.
We're going to switch gears. How'd you get started?
Yeah. I mean, where should we start with how I got started? Like, go back to full origin story.
Where'd you get the entrepreneurship bug?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's something I'd say was raised with to some degree. My father was self-employed for most of my life, as far as, you know, from anything I remember. Definitely a small business owner who really went through a couple stages and really settled on. I was 9 years old when he bought what we kind of call the family business, Arcal Chemicals. It was a chemical manufacturing company and in the Washington, D.C. area. And so grew up working in that business. And so for me, that training was more in just work ethic and hard work. You know, 9 years old, I'm going in on Saturdays, labeling buckets, assembling boxes, filling samples. By the time I'm 12, I'm driving the forklift. OSHA, we weren't as tight on back then. But by 14, I'm running, got trained by the accountant to do all of accounts receivable and cash and starting to manage the books. 16, I'm running production, prioritization, operations. And so it's like, I just moved through all of it, and really just enjoyed, frankly, maybe it sounds funny, but I really enjoyed working, and I still do. So maybe that's, some of it is the workaholic gene and some of it is the entrepreneurial gene. But yeah, kind of just always, I think it was just that independent streak as well of, I don't do well listening to others sometimes. With rules. and so, and that transferred like to school and everything else too, going in high school, my teachers didn't always know what to do with me as far as I was a good student, but at the same time, I'd kind of let them know what I was going to do. Their syllabus was a good suggestion.
Combative, right?
Yeah, a little bit. And so it just made sense that I was going to need to work for myself. And then I enjoy, and then I'd say that the type of entrepreneur I've gone into is I enjoy that creative process at the earliest stage. And so it's hard to get that in any other kind of environment. To get
like, what do you mean by that creative process? Like,
so really just getting the business from an idea to something that's up and running and getting it to revenue, kind of that initial product market fit and getting to revenue. But then I have a much harder time staying interested and engaged because after that early stage, because to me, it's also part of just that learning and exploration process that kind of seems to go into that is just what drives me overall. It's kind of goes into, growth mindset kind of thing where I'm only really happy when I'm learning and growing. And so some of the more quote unquote stable jobs I took early on, I got bored as soon as kind of like the challenge was done, which was usually like 18 to 24 months tops. Actually, I never made it past 22 months working for somebody. So
do you, that's kind of what drives your innovation is like, how can I learn a new skill here, a new market, or
find a new opportunity, create a new model that's going to help serve a pocket of that and pull all the pieces together and just kind of assemble and build that business. But then once it's up and running, if it becomes operations, then I'm just kind of out. It's
so fascinating because I say this as your friend. I know you are a creature of habit in your like home life though, right?
Yeah, I am. And to some degree that's where I get my balance and try to like, decompress and things like that. I need my routines, like morning routines and other things to just, get done other things in my life that I, value and want to prioritize. And so, and I do stay in some pretty good grooves on that front, which I guess is interesting because
you're very disciplined with like, this is what I do. This is when I do it. This is how I do it. But then you like crave this like innovation and moving quickly.
Yep.
With businesses. It's interesting. I don't do astrology, but it feels like there's something someone could figure out about you in there.
Probably. If they do, if you're listening and you figured me out, please let me know.
What is it called, Abby? It's like your moon and your rising. Yeah, your big three. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
What time of day were you born? That's all someone needs. Do you know?
Really?
Yeah.
I actually don't. I don't remember.
Okay.
I know I'll ask my mom this weekend.
That's what everyone always says.
My birthday's There's actually like a month.
Really good meme going around that's like this kid texts his mom and says, "Mom, when was I born? What time was I born?" And she writes back, "Dumper." She's like, "No, absolutely not.
Nice.
We're not doing this."
Yeah. Don't go down that rabbit hole.
What is the scrappiest thing you've ever done?
In life and business.
Yeah.
I feel like scrappy is something that's part of the DNA of, I'll say my mom's family.
Okay.
And so that definitely got instilled in us growing up. The first memory that comes to mind that's is me getting my head duct taped rather than going into the hospital. That's why you've seen my scar.
Yeah.
When I've got my shaved head. No, that's a massive scar on my head that probably would have been a fraction the size if there were stitches involved.
Duct tape's not
duct tape, and it was like a full like head wrap.
Stop. How old were you?
I was 9, and we were, this is like the summer my dad was buying that business, and we were farmed out 5 hours away in the countryside at my grandparents' place while my dad was kind of settling up on the deal, and we were moving, and there's just a lot going on. So we were parked out in the woods for the summer and split my head open pretty good, and no insurance. Let's just figure this out real quick and clean it up, duct tape your head. But I mean, that's like a microcosm, one example, but I feel like all my businesses have been bootstrapped, and that's probably a function of kind of that scrappier mindset. But then maybe just college, like I got married young, had 4 years of school left, basically, put myself and my wife through school, and halfway through my schooling, we had our first kid and she had finished school, but always worked, pretty much full time while doing school full time and starting a family and being able to come out all of that with no debt, because I just, worked my butt off. So I felt like that was pretty scrappy as well.
That's very scrappy. Do you, you're probably one of the best people I know at compartmentalizing.
Okay.
What's your trick?
What's my trick to compartmentalize?
Do you feel like your brain's just wired that way?
Yeah. Cause I think that is part of it. I think that's where just kind of having like the heavy kind of, I don't know, logic and processing side is I'm just like, okay, I just kind of mentally assign it that bucket, that compartment. And I can say either I can deal with this later, or I can deal with this, or I'm just going to decide I'm okay with it. This is going back to how to fast track grief,
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, the 5 stages. Anger is a big one that a lot of people like to spend a lot of time in. And I was just like, okay, anger actually does nothing for me to help me advance and move forward in this journey. So I'm just going to be angry for 5 minutes and check it off my list and move on. So I kind of compartmentalize.
You feel like you were really only angry for like 5 minutes?
Yeah, if that. I'm actually like padding it, because to me it was so unproductive. It wasn't going to get Becca back. So I was just like, what, like, be mad at who? The various doctors, God. I was, what's the checklist? Who can I be angry at? And it's just like, well, that's actually not going to do anything for me. So next.
Do you have empathy when people are angry for a long time?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I feel like if Christy were to pass away suddenly, I might spend some more time in the anger stage.
Right.
Because I'll be like, whoa. I already did this once. This is crap.
Yeah. So what would you, I forgot what I was going to ask.
But really, I don't stay angry. I do get upset sometimes, but it doesn't last because it's not productive.
Yeah, it burns out quick.
So for me, I compartmentalize things into really like, what's this going to do to help, advance my goal? And if it's not productive, I'm pretty good at just like, throw it in a bucket and forget about it.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question I only ask men.
Okay.
How do you balance home, family, work life?
I'm a working dad.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and yeah, it's tricky. Balance is, I don't know if it's like a misnomer or it's tough for anybody that's an entrepreneur, because almost by necessity or by default, you're going to be pretty obsessive about, getting about that business, and especially in that early stage where I like to be. It's like take any rocket that's trying to take off. It's like it's a tremendous amount of force that needs to be generated to get something off the ground and going. So it's pretty consuming. So really for me, I put up a couple, again, my simple systems of like, okay, Mondays and Fridays, you're going to go home at a reasonable hour, like 5:30, like you're just cutting it off. So that I'll see my kids on those weeknights. And then and then some of it, I just do the best I can in the middle, but then really like having dedicated date nights with my wife. And then just really, just trying to figure out what are the kids into now. And then I just try to follow that flow and carve out time here and there where I can, especially on the weekend. I've gotten better over the last 10 years. My earlier, even 8 years ago, one of the startups I was doing, I mean, I remember telling one of my kids like, oh, hey, like, yeah, I canceled a trip or whatever, like, or I was out of town. I was like, hey, dude, like Dad's back in town. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you were out of town for like 4 days because they didn't see me anyways in their waking hours. They didn't know if I was in town or not. So that's, a sobering moment where you're like, your kid doesn't even know if you're in town. It feels like a threshold you'd like to stay under. But, so for me, it was like, okay, that's when I did the like Monday, Friday thing at least. Like, yeah, I could leave town in the week and you won't know, but I'm going to make sure that I can bookend this and cut it off. And then I've done better at not really working on Saturdays the last couple of years.
Really?
So I'll sometimes sneak in an hour or two. But yeah, I have cut that way back the last couple of years. 'Cause I'm just like, you know what? I just got to figure it out like without having that time allocated.
Yeah.
It's not all about Gary Vee and Grant Cardone hustling.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like there's seasons of life where you have to hustle, and then there's seasons where you can take it a little easier. And
yeah, and right now, it's like things shifted. Like when Becca died, I probably only took like 2 weeks off.
I was very worried about you during this time, Andrew.
It may be only 1 week actually, but part of it was like working is just what like breathed some life back into me as well. But then when Chrissy and I got married, and you're doubling the kids overnight, and you're trying to figure out how do we manage this new chaos in the household. I just like said, I have to go home at 5:30 every night. Like for the first couple months, I probably made dinner 5 nights a week and was wrangling kids to bed every night and like put in a ton of extra time then, because it was very expedient that I do that to not completely overwhelm my new wife.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it had to be done. And then we kind of figured out a new rhythm. I, hire help here and there, figure out kind of how do we get in balance where I can protect Chrissy's sanity, but also get back the hours I need at work.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do what needs to be done.
I love it. What's one lesson that you learned early on that's still true today?
Yeah. I mean, there's several. I mean, going back to, I've brought up kind of growth mindset a lot. To me, learning is just like one of my core things that I'm pretty obsessed about. I still read at least 50 books a year, is probably a low water mark actually. But it's just, so for me, the jobs were more about, and I think especially in the early stage, so kind of what did I learn early was, I did value learning from the jobs, from both kind of mentors in whatever organization I was in, as well as just in the skills that I was building on the job. And then not just, for me, it wasn't just about the normal work day. It was, I'm going to put an extra 20 hours a week in of educating myself about the industry and self, teaching skill set kind of when I moved into the digital marketing world, especially, to really just expand my capabilities. And so I was much more focused on what am I doing? What am I learning over like, how much am I getting paid? How prestigious is this? And that's kind of goes into the advice I now kind of give people who are starting out. What is
it? Tell us the advice.
Well, it's that. It's really just like, hey, prioritize, your learning and education that's far beyond school. Like I did school, but it's whatever. Like you get something out of it. But as far as like my real business and entrepreneurship education and what I know in the space and the industries that I play in, it's primarily self-taught. You got to be driven. And so the advice is really that like you are the asset and you should be investing in yourself. So that intellectual property that you have in your head, as well as your network, so which is also who you know what you know how to do, what can you produce, what results can you drive. It's like you take that anywhere you go, and
so you should come to my mastermind.
So you should be investing,
right?
Yeah, you got to invest in yourself, your knowledge, your network.
Yeah.
And I stacked that so heavily in my 20s, like that decade. I didn't even watch TV in my 20s.
Do you watch TV now though?
A little bit. We have like, a Netflix show every now and then. And that's something I can do with Christy because, working on the laptop every night is not as fun for her. So
got it. Yeah.
So I do some now, but like literally didn't like whatever was popular in those eras. I don't know, but didn't because I was allocating all that time to one, young kids, and then two, like just going to events and or reading books or running through digital courses or whatever it was. Because but it's like I've kind of the last handful of years, and maybe even since about when Becca died, I just kind of started laying low more on the networking scene. But
you're definitely out of practice on that one, huh?
Yeah, but I'll say that like the investment in my 20s, like still / maybe to like 35 paid like
it continues
I still
to pay
know
off.
everybody.
Yeah.
In the business community around here, most people I can get.
Plus, that's why you stay friends with me, so that you can always like.
Exactly, just be friends with the with 6 Susan. People who know everybody, and then. But yeah, so you're never more than 1 degree away if you put in the work for it, and it is work, especially because I'm much more introverted. I don't like going to those events. I don't like talking to new people. It's not something that. It's like that drains me. It doesn't.
You know
give
what
me
though?
energy.
When I first met you, I wouldn't have known that.
Right, because it's like I'm also an entrepreneur. It's like who's doing the biz dev? Who's going to go out there and get the deals done? You got to do it. So it doesn't really matter.
You've got to do. That's the thing for Freshly Picked. I do so many things that take me outside my comfort zone. That if it was just for me, I wouldn't do it.
Oh, absolutely.
But because it's for the business and what I'm trying to build, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, for me, I'll just find the quiet corner.
Yeah.
Maybe the one person I know, and I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Okay, what legacy are you building?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's a big question in a way, but, for me, it's something I think about, and I think about it on a couple levels. I think about, first and foremost, just like my family and my kids. I feel like just trying to do the best job I can as a dad is the legacy I'm going to care about, and really not just being like, there's probably different levels of how I might measure it, but just you want the happy, productive, good human beings, but also just really. We are pretty leadership focused in our home and in the education we try to help our kids with, and so just thinking about them as kind of next generation leaders and And so am I giving them opportunities and to develop and grow in every way possible? So that's where I focus the most on legacy. But the other part to me is that, and this is partly the other reason, and or the other objective out of my entrepreneurial goals is just to, have the means to focus on, shift gears into other things that I want to spend more time on. I mean, I feel like everybody's kind of on this earth for a reason is something I feel pretty strongly about. And you got to find that reason, and you're going to have a different vehicle for how you're going to get there. But, and for me, like entrepreneurship has been part of the vehicle, but I feel like, feeding the hungry, that's one of my big things that's been on my mind for over 20 years plus. And I try to, find different ways to help contribute to that cause now while I can. And right now, a lot of that's just financial. And then, but, I've got models and studies and things I'm working through on my own and tapping into research and trying to figure out, okay, how do I maybe solve some of these problems and contribute to something, to that specifically. And so to me, legacy is also, can I kind of transition into that full time to where I'm allocating much more of my time, most of my time to something that I feel like is a little more meaningful to be helping other people.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, we're going to do some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Favorite pair of shoes?
Oh, favorite pair of shoes? It's
right now, I guess.
Yeah, my Travis Scott highs, the black and blues. Those ones are
good.
My current favorites.
Okay. Favorite food?
Tacos.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Taco Tuesday?
Taco every day. I had tacos today. Al Pastor, anything though.
You go to Holy Tacos?
Love Holy Taco. I was there Tuesday night for date night.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Who's your favorite child?
So, yeah, rapid fire. The right answer is,
all of them.
All of them is the only acceptable answer. But really,
it's just us. Like no one's listening.
What I like is that I feel like any of my kids could make an argument that they're the favorite child.
Ooh.
And it's a different argument for all of them. And I think that's a good thing, so it's like every kid thinks the other kid might be the favorite.
Today, who is your favorite kid?
Emma.
Oh, she wins a lot, doesn't she?
She wins a lot. She's just so sweet. And
she's fun.
It's hard to, pass her over.
Yeah.
But again, I could list off, any given day.
We'll just leave it
at
kid. Emma. Best book you've read lately?
Oh, geez. That's tough. Discipline is Destiny.
Okay. Who's that by?
That is, oh geez. Now since I'm on the spot, I can't.
I know it's like when you have to remember someone's name on the spot.
It's my stoicism guy that I've read a bunch of his books. He's got a couple interesting marketing books too. Ryan Holiday. Jeez. So yeah, it probably took me a few years to realize that it was the same Ryan Holiday that I'd followed previously for his marketing experience, but he's written a bunch of books now on stoicism and kind of that philosophy, which has been super interesting. And
you're such a nerd.
I am a nerd.
I like that about you, actually. Okay, last question.
Okay.
You asked me about this, so here we go.
Okay.
Girl boss, gatekeep, gaslight, pick one. And then I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, geez.
I know.
I don't even understand what's happening.
Okay, so have you...
Girl boss?
I feel like you aren't on social media.
No, I'm not. So
it's a funny, meme.
Okay.
Funny thing going on TikTok.
Okay.
Where someone is a girl boss, they gatekeep stuff. Like they gatekeep product or services or something cool. And then they gaslight you into thinking they don't gatekeep it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So what am I supposed to do with this?
So you just pick one, and then I'm going to ask you a question based on what you pick. It's a trick.
It's a pick. Okay. But I'm just picking. So I'm picking girl boss.
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, who's your favorite girl boss?
You.
Oh, come on. Okay, I was really nice to you because I could have asked you a lot of mean questions.
Okay.
But we'll leave it at that. I'm his favorite. Okay.
That was easy.
You worried about that one a lot, didn't you?
A little bit. I didn't even understand it as a question.
I know. You didn't ask your kids, your teenagers?
I didn't even know it was a thing to ask them about.
Okay, next time I'll tell you.
I know.
You should always ask your kids
I get on social media
that I
periodically,
tell you.
But yeah.
I'm very tuned into the hip stuff, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on my podcast. You're the best.
Yeah, no, appreciate it.